Hey, what's going on? JD here, and here we are at Stage 5, Race the World, City and Sgurr. This is the recap and recon of the race. Now, ultimately for this race, you are going to want to pick the fastest gravel bike if you have enough levels and points. That is definitely the Specialized Crux with the Envy gravel wheels. It is going to be significantly quicker than any road bike because we have multiple up gravel climbs that you're just going to simply be faster. Overall, the lead in is 2.7 kilometers. Each lap is 5.9. There's 103 meters of elevation for a total of 14.6 kilometers and 268 meters of elevation gain for this race. Now, if you select the gravel bike, and you can see there's a lot of road bikes, you can see some Tron bikes here in this race. The first part of the race is going to be a little fast for you, a little hairy. Zwift starts are fast to begin with, and because you are on a gravel bike, which is nowhere near as fast as a road bike on the road, you are going to have to push that little bit harder. You can see here, I'm trying to stay with the main group as best as possible as we head into the countryside. The good news is, if you do select the gravel bike, is that it is about 1.2 kilometers where you hit that first roundabout and start hitting gravel, and things will ease off a bit. So your best strategy here on the gravel bike is to stay as well insulated in the draft as possible. You can see here that I am riding in the vast majority of the group. My goal is to utilize as little energy as possible, but I still have to work that bit harder. You can see my watts per kilogram at times are higher than those around me just to kind of keep up. As we move through the roundabout, we're going to take that first left-hand turn. There is a little bit of cobblestones, and then we are almost immediately into dirt. And you can see in that switch, we kind of actually surge to the front. It's not that I really want to be here. I kind of want to stick with the group, and I want to see what kind of pace things are going to go. And you can see guys are putting down some power. We're seeing some big watts per kilogram early on, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. So my strategy here is to get the best finish, obviously, that I can. I have no illusions of winning this race because I am not a climber, but I will be doing my best to stick with the main group for as long as possible. And you can see that guys are doing 4.5, 3, all sorts of watts per kilogram. That's not going to be sustainable for me long term. It's just not going to happen. But you can see it's a little bit surgy. Guys are pushing through. I'm just trying to keep my pace. It's a bit higher than I probably want at this point at 3.9 watts per kilogram because I'm not going to be able to sustain that for the entire race. You can even see some flames going off as people are pushing it. So we're going to continue to climb, stick with things as best we can. So as we come around the corner, you can see people are starting to pull ahead. There are, again, some 5-6 watts per kilogram in that group. They surge ahead. We'll pull them back a little bit. I try to keep up, but ultimately what's going to happen here is there's going to be a break. You can see there is separation already as we hit this hill. I think these guys are on road bikes, and that guy might definitely be switching. They kind of group up together as they slow down. I give a little bit of a dig to kind of get over the top to catch back up. But as they go down the downhill, again, getting a little bit of distance, and there is starting to be that separation from the front riders from myself as we're looking at a couple seconds here. Now, as far as bikes go, like I said, in my opinion, the gravel bike is the thing to do because the climbs are the major part of this course, and the gravel bike's going to excel. Swapping bikes because the other side of this mountain is road isn't going to be beneficial for you. You're going to lose too much time if you're swapping back and forth. You're just going to have to pick one and go with it and sort of live with your decision. You can see I'm trying to catch up here. I'm doing 4.5 watts, but these guys are still pushing like almost 5 watts a kilogram at the front. Simply not sustainable for me, but we're getting close. And you can see, again, people pushing off the front. There was a lot of power going out early on in this race. It was a really tough field. So as we progress in the climb, I just ultimately kind of get left in no man's land. As we peak here, we get the power-ups. We have Anvil and Feather. Always hoping for the Feather for a big guy like me. I get the Anvil. My strategy here with the Anvil is just kind of shoot it off at the top where it's a little bit steeper. And once I get a little bit of steam going, as the gradient starts to pick up, so at 5%, I pop that off just to kind of get the most. You can see we're at 9, 10, so hopefully that extra bit of weight makes me just that little bit faster coming down the hill. By this time, we're in 14th place. I've got about 4 or 5 people on my tail. I'm not really pushing hard to catch up because I know I can't keep up with that pace of the other group, and I'm just kind of hoping for some casualties up there. And I'm also knowing that this is the road, that there's going to be some bikes, so I just want to kind of catch a wheel and follow it down to the bottom, saving as much energy as possible. Now, if you're in a better position than me on the gravel bike, you may want to push on the downhill a bit and make those guys chase. As you can see here, I start dropping positions. I drop to like 20th as people just start flying by me on the road bikes up the hill. Again, you'll get to the top and then you will have the gravel descent. Being on a gravel bike, you will have a much better descent than everybody on the road bikes. And again, this may be a time to catch a breather if you are on the gravel bike. Again, I pull the Anvil here. It's not going to help me out terribly. I'm just hoping for the Feather to make those climbs a little bit easier, especially in those big 9% sections. But we are off downhill yet again. So we rip down the hill. Again, in no man's land, I actually pass somebody and catch up to somebody else. Then we're back up to the gravel climb. And this is the reason you're selecting gravel bike. You spend a lot of time gravel climbing. This is the second last time that we will be up here. You climb this a total of 3 times and the roadside twice. It's 2 laps. And that is simply why the gravel biking is an advantage here. Now, I've moved up from 20th to 17th, and I actually start passing people on the up. These are people that are probably have gone a little bit too hard and are getting dropped off the back. We move past, we keep on going. I'm just kind of keeping my pace at this point. I don't want to go too hard. I just kind of want to keep at a pace that I know I can keep. I don't want to blow myself up. There's no real advantage for me here. All that's happening is that we are slowly moving the field, picking off people. You can see another couple riders coming up, and I keep on gaining that little bit of time. You can see for the person behind me, they're doing about 3.1 watts per kilogram just to kind of lose a little bit of time on me. The gravel bike is just making it a lot easier to climb, and you can see I'm slowly progressing towards the guys. The thing is with this course is as you do the turnarounds, you can really see how far ahead people are from you or how far behind. Ultimately, I'm just trying to pick a pace and maybe go a little bit harder just so I don't blow myself up. I know there's a lot of climbing, and again, I'm just simply not a climber. So we continue to work. I catch up to a couple guys ahead, pull past them. They put on some big efforts and zoom ahead again. It's just kind of back and forth. As we get to the summit, I just kind of want to hold on to these wheels, especially on the downhill and especially being at road, just to give me that little bit more recovery. So again, I pull an Anvil. That just seems to be the theme for this race. I'm going to pull the Anvil and sit there and do as much recovery as possible. When we hit the bottom here, we've got this little group of 4. I just want to kind of stay, again, in their draft as much as possible, especially at the bottom here. You're going to benefit from it because it is relatively flat until just after the bend, and then it's climb time. And I just kind of want to stick with them as long as possible. I can't tell if they're on gravel bikes or road bikes, but as we start going up, we see these guys start putting in some crazy power numbers like 5.6 watts per kilogram. This guy pops a Feather. I'm just not simply going to be able to keep up with that. For me, that's impressive. At this point, I can't put out that kind of power. It's just not simply going to be there. It doesn't take these guys long to basically drop me on the climb and a couple more people to pass. I lose another couple positions as we summit on the roadside. I can kind of see them ahead. They're just about there. I think at this point here, I drop the anvil. Again, anvil theme of the day. I would have loved a feather. It could have made a big difference, to be honest, at certain points. But I just want to give it a little bit of a push, get myself up there, and I push hard enough this time that I can ultimately get the super tuck just so I can get the rest in. So once we get up to that 58, 59 kilometers an hour, I just let it roll. It drops down. We get the super tuck, take a little drink out of the bottle, and we start following these guys, and hopefully this is enough to catch up. So I just continue to eat their dust. I'm still in the super tuck position. I give it another quick pump or two as we hit this sort of up bit in the course. As we start coming over, I actually start to move through. I catch their draft. You can see my guy sits up for a second and I move right through and we keep on going. Now, this is the advantage again of the gravel bike on the downhill versus road bikes. I start putting a little bit of distance into the guys that are second behind. They're pushing a little bit harder than I am to sort of keep up. I'm not really actually pushing that hard. I'm just kind of spinning the pedals a bit, and they're sitting in my draft. I'm not going to drop them immediately. I think these guys were on road bikes, so I kind of want to use that a little bit to my advantage on the bottom, and on the climb, that's when I'll look to do things. We're kind of sitting in that 14, 15 spot. We did it the whole time. You can see people are already heading back up the hill as we come down towards the bottom in the roundabout to make our way back up the hill. So again, we have this little group of four as we start climbing up. But these guys are putting down some serious power. You can see all of a sudden they speed up to 5 watts per kilogram and they just start pulling away. I don't have that kind of power to catch up. Ultimately, it is a rider by the name of Hens and I that are left kind of going. And even Hens is doing like 4.6, 5.3 watts per kilogram. I kind of want to stick to his wheel and hopefully stick with him. I want to kind of keep that spot, if not be a little bit ahead. But I think the guy's toying with me. At this point, I remember thinking, this guy is just toying with me. He is putting down watts like you wouldn't believe, seemingly at will. I kind of push ahead a little bit. I'm hoping that if I keep things consistent and maybe push a little bit, that this guy will be super surgy. You can see he's doing over 10 watts a kilogram to pass me there, that he's just going to blow up and give up. He sort of passes. I continue to push. I want to grab his wheel again, because he slows right down. I'm still trying to keep it consistent. With the gravel bike's help, we kind of roll up and we start going again. There's this little bit of cat and mouse going on, but ultimately, no sooner than I typically pass him, you can see him, he just throws down and off he goes again. And this is really kind of hurting me at this point. I'm just trying to keep up. I just want to kind of keep that slot. Again, we surge forward, and if you wait, you can see it. There you go, 5.4, 6 watts per kilogram as he continues to go. But this time he doesn't quite pass, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe, just maybe that was kind of it for him. And as we come towards the ends, he'll drop off, but he sticks to me like glue. Now, this isn't great for me because the last little bit towards the banner is tarmac, and if he is able to punch, he is just going to simply run away with it because his bike's going to roll that bit faster, and I don't have a ton in the tank, and he seems to be able to get these huge surges. You can see him just sweating away. This last little bit of gravel, I think I decide to put in a little bit of push, and I think it's about 200 meters is where I really contemplate, should I be pushing harder? I start kind of upping the pace a bit, knowing that the gravel's going to go and that it's going to hurt him a bit. You can see he's surging up to 4. I'm only doing like 2.6, and we're kind of just sitting there neck and neck as we come to the final corner before the tarmac. We continue to push. He is still right there. He's doing like 5 watts a kilogram to my 3. And he's obviously a stronger rider than me. And Again, this part of the course came down to bike choice. The only reason I'm probably sticking away, but here you go. You see him with the push. He gets up ahead, and then he slows right down. Again, Felto is being toyed with a little bit, and then here we go. The sprint, 200 meters. I start giving it a dig, seeing if I can go, but ultimately I get a little bit ahead. You can see he's just going to push right past me at this point. He's digging deep, and he's at 10 watts per kilogram. I'm not going to be able to keep him away because I'm only up at 6, and he's just going to sprint right past me for the finish. And ultimately, I'm going to claim 15th spot. But this is where things get interesting. If we take a look at the new end screen here, you can see that there are guys at 4 watts a kilogram, 3.6, 3.8, 4.2, clearly Cat A riders, 3.3, even Hens who passed me is at 3.6. So I feel pretty good about my result. If we look at the Zwift power results, you can see I get bumped up 7 places, which is huge. Hens is still on there with his 3.6 and no heart rate data. Confused me a little bit, but ultimately that made me feel a little bit better seeing everybody that was in the top 5 was pretty much out of it at the end of the day. The only issue is that when people are that much stronger in a race like this and are pushing the pace, someone like myself, it really kind of damages me, and is a real possibility that I blow up quite early if I don't remain disciplined and can make those races tougher. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you found this helpful, please leave a comment. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button, and let me know what you think about the Zwift power rankings and how it worked with the race in terms of people that really probably shouldn't have been there in there, and how you think that affects races. Anyways, until next time, see ya.